Greetings, everybody, and Happy New Year's to everyone, as today is officially the first day of January and the first day of 2019. And, for me it is, but if you're watching this in Europe, you probably have already gone into the second day of 2019, and by the time this video will be uploaded, most likely everyone else would be at the second day of January. But this is, of course, the first video that I'll ever do on my channel in 2019, and we're gonna start our first ever video of 2019 in this channel by doing some New Year resolution and wishes for all 24 of the MLS team that's gonna be playing this season. Yes, it's now 24, not 23 like last season because of FC Cincinnati going into the league. And this will be the first time in 2 years that we will have the same amount of teams in each conferences, and both conferences are now back to being balanced. Both conferences now have 12 teams since Cincinnati joined the Eastern Conference. And yeah, but either way, let's get on to these New Year resolution and wishes that each 24 team has. And by the way, this is in some way I kind of got this video idea from one of the article on MLSsoccer.com. I believe one of their writer, Bobby Warshaw, actually did this. And most of this stuff that I put on is going to be completely different from his idea. But what I'm going to do in this video to just give you my idea of what I think some of these wishes and New Year resolution all 24 teams will want to have for the new season. So we'll start alphabetically, and we'll start with Atlanta United, and that is the repeat MLS champions. And I also probably would put also win CCL because, Atlanta, I think this team is definitely a team that could be going into as far as the CCL final and even winning the whole competition. They definitely have the talent to do that, so certainly that is one of the thing that they definitely want, but also repeat champions in MLS, which is incredibly hard to do. I mean, it's been a while since there has been a repeat champion, and throughout the 20 years in the league, there hasn't been a lot of repeat champion. For Chicago, defenders, and stop having players on the IR. So, Chicago does not have a lot of good center backs on their team besides Bastian Schweinsteiger, which we know that this is going to be potentially be his last year in Chicago, and he's not getting a year younger. And also stop having player on the IR. They were hammered with injuries last year, and that was pretty much one of the big reason why they really fall off the cliff and kind of gone back to what the Fire has been for the last couple of years, if you minus last year's playoff run. For Cincinnati, do something similar to what Atlanta and LAFC did in their expansion year. So I'm not saying that they have to once again break the MLS points record and probably get like 62 points this year to break that record, but they can do something similar to that. They can definitely surprise a lot of people. And when you look at these teams, if you compare FC Cincinnati to Atlanta and LAFC, it's kind of a bit of an unfair comparison because Cincinnati, they haven't really brought in some really big kind of European names or guys that they know that they're gonna really do well in MLS. I mean, sure, they have Fernando Audi, and he's a decent kind of player, but he's not like a big name kind of player. I mean, he's one of the best striker in the league, but he's not Joseph Martinez or Miguel Almiron or even Carlos Vela kind of type of guy coming into MLS. For the Rapids, player that they acquire in the offseason will fuel their playoff run. So the Rapids really made a lot of hay in this offseason, and you could kind of argue they might become the champions of the offseason, which unfortunately that it tends to not be a good award to win, just as Orlando City last season when they were crowned that title. But when you look at the players that they have acquired this offseason, it's clear that this team is not going to be like the laughing stock of the league again. This team is going to be serious. They're going to potentially compete. I won't say they will be definitely one of the best team in the league because, even with some of those acquisitions that they have, it wasn't like incredible name that they got, but they definitely have pieces that they can build and really surprise a lot of people and could be one of the dark horses in the Western Conference. For Columbus, new stadium, and Caleb Porter picked up what Berhalter did with this team. So it's not official that Porter is the new manager for Columbus, but I'm assuming probably that will be announced in the upcoming weeks. And it's definitely going to be a difficult task for him to pick up what Berhalter did with this team. And I will be very interested to see how is he going to work with this team that does not have a lot of good talented player on this team. And also the new stadium, if they get that groundbreaking done, it's just another success of the Save the Crew campaign and just another incredible achievement in this story kind of franchise that is the Columbus Crew. For DC United, more Lucharu and Rootney awesomeness. So obviously last year, the Lucho Acosta and Wayne Rootney, in my opinion, are probably the two most entertaining players to watch from last season within the same team. I mean, both of those guys was just cutting MLS defense apart, and it was just so fun to watch. And really one of the reasons why DC United has caught a lot of people's attention because of the exciting thing that they did. Now, so far DC United hasn't offered Lucho Acosta a contract extension soon, and I'm assuming they'll probably offer him one in the upcoming weeks. But yeah, Lucho Acosta and Wayne Rooney, if they have a year like they did in the second half of the season, yeah, this DC team could definitely make some hay. For FC Dallas, the academy that they have will bring in more talented players. So, as I mentioned many times before, Dallas has one of the best academy in the league, and knowing that they are going through a transition phase where they're getting rid of the core player that they had from a couple of years ago and guys that they bought in from the academy, and now bring some other player from the academy to the team. Hopefully this new bunch that they bought from the academy would be just as talented as they did a couple of years ago. For Houston, a deep run in CCL. I really think the Dynamo could be a dark horse in the CCL. I know they are probably the weakest team in terms of, the weakest MLS team in CCL, but you never know. Maybe this team could definitely make a deep run in CCL. Maybe their Honduran kind of under 21 squad. I know that sounds very kind of harsh on Houston, but hey, they have so many young kind of Honduran player minus Bonet Garcia, who I'm accidentally mistaken that he was only like 21 and he's actually like 30 or something like that. But they have a very young kind of squad, and that certainly this team could really surprise a lot of people and maybe even make a deep run into CCL. For LAFC, do something similar to what Atlanta did in the second year. So, like I said, with Cincinnati, with how they could do something similar to the expansion team. For LAFC, they could maybe do something similar to Atlanta United. Now, I'm not saying that they need to win MLS Cup, because I think when you look at this LAFC team, it's a good team, but I still think it's a step below the teams like Atlanta United or the Red Bulls or even Sporting KC that is fighting for that MLS Cup and are early favorites heading into next season. But they certainly have the talent to do that. For the Galaxy, fix the hot garbage defense and give Zlatan a playoff run. I mean, Zlatan coming back to the Galaxy certainly surprised a couple of people, but if you're the Galaxy, you might think that this might be your last year where Zlatan is going to be there, and I think it's just absolutely cruel to say as a neutral kind of MLS fan to not see Zlatan in the playoffs. I know I said in my New Year kind of bold prediction that I did video that I said that LA was not going to make the playoffs for the third year in a row, and Zlatan is going to miss out on the playoffs. But in general, as a neutral kind of fan, which I'm obviously not, as a as a Quakes fan. But let's say I'm a neutral fan and I don't have any hard feelings with the Galaxy. Yeah, we want to see the Galaxy in the playoffs. We want to see Zlatan in the playoffs. It will be very interesting to see how it is. And, they got to fix that hot garbage defense it was hot garbage, okay? And speaking of hot garbage defense, for Minnesota, it's pretty much the same thing. And I know Minnesota fan is going to really hate me in the comments saying that I just put Ibit mark on yours and I didn't really wrote the fact that you need to fix your hot garbage. But it's just for short, okay? And for sure you need to fix your hot garbage. That has been the problem ever since you entered the league. Obviously, one of their new signing and their third DP signing, Jan Gregors, will definitely help the case. But, they would really hope that this defense can be at least decent enough where they don't give up like 70 goals in a single season. For Montreal, one last hurrah for Nacho Piatti. So Piatti, this is it. This is his last year. We know that he's not going to be coming back next year. So this is really one last hurrah for him. And for Montreal, the playoff window is definitely started to slam shut on them. And, once Piatti goes, then this Montreal team might go on a bit of a rebuild. So you got to take advantage of this and at least get into the playoffs for Piatti. I mean, I'm really hoping to give him a good sending off, and it's not like last season where, they missed the playoffs. For New England, Brad Friedel find a way to work with a low budget squad. Now, this one was really tough to come up with because for New England, they still kind of have the same squad as last season, and although last season's squad definitely, in my opinion, kind of overachieved a little bit, despite how garbage it was, they haven't really done much to address some of the issue that they had last season. So, for New England fans, they will hope that Brad Friedel will find a way to find the right system that can fit with this low budget squad that he is working on. And I say low budget squad because the owner of New England, they don't invest in the team, and that's been one of the biggest problem for the refs the past couple of seasons. For NYCFC, smooth transition in the post-David Villa era. So this is definitely a year where NYCFC is going to be coming into with a lot of concern because David Villa is no longer there. The face of their franchise is no longer there, and pretty much all the old kind of aging European star that they brought in is no longer there anymore. David Villa was really the last one, so it will be interesting to see how they will do this year and hope that they have a smooth transition and not do what Orlando City did when Kaká basically retired from the league and of course now no longer a member of that team. For the Red Bulls, it's simple: win MLS Cup. I mean, that these three words is pretty much what Red Bulls fan will think about throughout the season. It's really MLS Cup or bust for this team, considering the fact that they pretty much bought back from that record-breaking season from last year and that Supporters Shield winning season, minus Tyler Adams, which is a bit of a loss, but still, you would think this Red Bulls team should have enough to make another deep run. And really, this season, it is really MLS Cup or bust for them with all that talent. You can't tell me this team with all that talent that they have cannot get at least close to going to the MLS Cup final and winning the whole thing. Orlando City, key player can finally play up to their potential. So all those guys that they have acquired for the last couple of seasons has really kind of underachieved. So they are praying that they can actually reach to their potential. And for Orlando City, I know they lost Yoshi Yotun, which is a huge loss for them, and it looked like they're started to begin the rebuilding stage, which I think it's going to be coming in the next year or two. So really for Orlando City, it's now or never to make the playoff run. So they better hope those key players can actually play their potential, because if they don't, their playoff window is going to slam shut for a while. For the Union, young and unproven talent will break out. So I talked about last season with all these young and unproven talent that they have and how much they really did well with this Union team. Now the question is, can they do it again in the second year and they can go into the next step, which is having a breakout year and really give this Union team their first ever win in the playoffs series. For Portland, come out of the 12-game road trip in good shape. So the Timbers, of course, they start their season 12 games on the road because of the renovation of Providence Park, and they certainly will hope that they can come out of that 12 game in good shape. And I'm not saying that they have to come out of it in above the playoff line. If they can just stay competitive and even below the playoff line, then I think they're definitely in a good shape. And I'm not also going to say that the Timbers really need to come out of this 12 game. If they come out of this 12 game and they're in a big mess, I'm not really going to panic with this team just yet, because we've seen before teams with second halves, especially with a lot of home games, tends to do very, very well. And, knowing the Timbers, they have been just so impressive for the last couple of years at home. That's might be something that they can take advantage of it. But let's just say that in case that does not happen, and really just kind of for the insurance for the Timbers, they probably would want to come out of this brutal 12-game road trip to start the season in a pretty good shape. For RSL, more Mike Pecky rant. I mean, I love those Mike Pecky's rant, and it's also the reason why I think if you ask me who's my favorite manager in MLS, I would say Mike Pecky, because I love his rant. I love the way that he motivates the team, and it's just a guy that it's really hard to hate him. Even with some of the rant that he has, it makes sense with some of the rant that he has created last year. So please, more of those rant. I want him to criticize the referee and just maybe do another famous quote like he did last year of how find me whatever you want, because I really don't care whatsoever. And also carry the momentum from last year to this season. I said that same thing last season, and if I would have done this video last season, it would have been the same thing that I would say with RSL. They need to carry that momentum that they had last season into this year if they want to be successful. For the Quakes, sign some players for Almeida to build this squad. So besides us signing a second division Brazilian player, we have done absolute fuck all in the offseason. And, as we head into January, there is started to be a little bit concern as a Quakes fans that the front office are not really doing anything. And I'm hearing a lot of Quakes fans are sharing that concern, because let's face it, there is no way this team is going to make the playoffs next season if we have the same squad. I mean, you can even quote me on this whatsoever, but I just clearly believe that with this squad that Almeida has to work on, no way we're making the playoffs. It doesn't magic. You never see a team that has the worst season in league history, or the worst team in league history, and then the next season magically they will make the playoffs. It just does not work like that. For the Sounders, a smooth transition between the old Sounders and the new Sounders. So that means is that the old Sounders was that old core that they built in the first couple of seasons they were in the league, and knowing now that old core is really just aging badly, they're now bringing some new kind of players to their team, and that's why they're kind of like in this transitional phase, which is why last season I said that potentially they're gonna have to go on a rebuild where some of those guys from their core that they built in the beginning of the season, they need to start to kind of freshen them out and bring in some new guys to it. And so far, I think the Sounders, this has been a pretty successful transition that they have been trying to go from the old ways to now bring some new players to compete. But we'll see how this season is going to continue. And certainly one big thing that the Sounders will have to make in this offseason, and certainly Garth Lagerwey is going to have to make this offseason, that is something related to this, is what are they going to do with Ozzie Alonso? Because Alonso, he's still out of contract. He's not on the Sounders roster for next year unless he gets a contract extension. And, you know, Ozzie Alonso is one of the most important player and probably the anchor of this midfield for the Sounders. But he's part of the old Sounders core. So do you decide to not extend his contract and hope that Gustav Stenson, who is part of the new Sounders kind of core, would actually be as good as what Ozzie Alonso was for this team? So that is a big decision that Garth Lagerwey and that front office of the Sounders will have to figure it out. And then for Sporting KC, they need to finish the job they left unfinished last year. So last year they went to the conference final. I thought for sure that they were going to make it to MLS Cup, but they faltered in the second leg. Now this season, pretty much with a very similar squad minus Diego Rubio that they lost in a trade. I think Sporting KC should be once again competitive and a team that are considered one of the favorites of going to MLS Cup final and winning the whole thing. And for TFC, it's redemption in CCL and MLS. I mean, if there's one word that all TFC fans have in mind and what are their wishes, the word is redemption. Because last season in MLS, it was an absolute dreadful year, and then in the CCL, the heartbreaking loss to Chivas. And I'm not saying that this year in CCL they're going to be as good as last year or it's going to be as easy. I think it's going to be even tougher this year when they go into CCL, considering the fact that, you know, we don't know if they're going to be as good as they were a couple of years ago, and the fact that you have a team like Atlanta that is in CCL. So what happened if Atlanta and TFC face each other in CCL knockout round? Hopefully that will happen in the final, because if that happens in the final, then we know for sure that there's going to be for the first time ever a MLS team will finally win CCL. So yeah, we'll see how that's going to do. And also, certainly they want to get back to the playoffs. This team definitely still have a couple of key contributors from that MLS Cup winning season, but they need to really kind of play to what they were a couple of years ago if they want to find redemption. And finally, for the Whitecaps, a brand new roster for Marc Dos Santos to work for. So what Vancouver has done this offseason is completely just, they went on a wholesale kind of changes with their squad. Like, they pretty much went on a fire sale and got rid of so many players from their team, and now they're basically left with just almost nothing with their squad. And I'm expecting Vancouver to sign a bunch of players in these next couple of weeks, and you're going to hear a lot of things that I'm going to be talking about on the news of the week involving the Whitecaps, because they are going through a squad overhaul, and MDS is just going to choose some of the guys that he wants to put in that squad and make it work for it. And it will be interesting to see how this brand new roster will do for MDS, and let's see if he can get this team to the playoffs. But yeah, either way, that is pretty much the wishes for all 24 teams in MLS. Let me know in the comments below what are some of the wishes that your team wants in MLS and some of the New Year resolution that you want your team to achieve heading into this new season. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.